Hey everyone, it's Stephanie again, and you're tuned into the review of Married at First Sight, Season 10, Episode 2. Before we get started, do not forget to click the subscribe button and the little notification bell so you can be the first to receive when I post anything. So, welcome to all my followers. Welcome to my channel. I just want to start, before we get into the review, I just want to say thank you to everyone who sent congratulatory messages about our baby, our upcoming baby. We're so excited. We really appreciate it. We feel all the love. I'm trying to respond to everyone, but we really appreciate you guys, and we were so happy to share it with you. So thank you very much. Let's get started. Okay, so last week, with the season starting, for it to be the first episode, I feel like normally we find out more about these people than we normally did last week. Like last week, I felt completely disconnected. I really was annoyed. I was annoyed the whole episode. It just felt very flat for me. And I read a lot of you guys' messages, and it felt very flat for you guys too. This week, I think we got to know some of the couples more. We were able to start to get an understanding of who they are, got a little more family involvement, even though we just saw 3 of the 5 get married. But I felt like I got to know a little bit more about them, where I can now remember them without necessarily having to write them down, even though I did, because I'll write them down until we get a few episodes in. But I feel like we know them a little bit more. I will start off by saying that I think last night's episode was unnecessarily long. I don't even know how long it was. Maybe, I don't know, 2 hours or an hour and a half. It was really long. They drug out all the before the wedding scenes. They drug that out. It was, okay, and you next, come on in. And we can see them changing kind of the way that they're doing things. I didn't think it was necessary, because I don't feel like we want to sit here, we as the viewers want to sit here for 2 hours and only get through 3 couples. Because towards the end, I was like, I don't care if we have 2 more couples. I'm not gonna watch. I'm gonna just turn it off, and then tomorrow I'll catch up, because it felt so long. So next time I would say, because if anybody's watching that's like on the show, like, we don't need to see, like, we don't need an entrance of each family member before, and there's like a lot of extra somewhat forced dialogue before the scene, because it just ran so long. And if you're going to do more couples, then we need like less filler time and more like content time, stuff that we get to know about them and their engagement and the experts meeting with them and so on and so forth. It's still early, but we'll see. So the first couple is Jessica and Austin. So I forgot to mention last week that my concern for Austin, because I couldn't remember anything significant about him, but I forgot to mention his connection to his mother. I think it's beautiful. Okay, it's sweet. He's close to his mom. He values her. Listen, family is a big deal. And I've said this in past reviews. When you marry into a family, you do marry the family. It's not just this one person. That sounds very cute. That sounds very Bonnie and Clyde, but we know how that ended up. You really have to engage the family members, because it will affect your marriage. Unless somebody is completely overtly wrong and disrespectful, it will affect your spouse. And there's a lot of walking the fence that you have to do. And if you are able to establish a healthy relationship, then it'll be much easier, and it'll support your marriage rather than take away and cause friction. So it's really important. But, in the matchmaking special, he emphasized his mom almost like we are making the decision. And he really has to learn that there's a way to value your parents' decisions without letting them make them for you. Because we've seen, we, like, as us just as people, have seen when certain people just don't like certain people, and it's their own thing. It's not necessarily that that person isn't good for you, but sometimes your family has an idea of who they want. Sometimes they are just specific to what they want, and it's not necessarily, it doesn't coincide with what you want or maybe who you are. And so we have to learn to take that stuff in pieces. I appreciate your advice. I'm going to take that into consideration, because that's really important. I do value you. We have a very close relationship. Wanting someone who kind of gets into the family and meshes really well with your family, that's ideal. But taking mom and dad's, especially, well, in his case, mom's wisdom to heart to the point where he is somewhat unable to make a decision, that's problematic. And now she's not comfortable with this whole thing. So obviously Austin can make a decision without her. But I feel like if Jessica's the greatest thing for him, then if mom doesn't like it, that's going to be a problem for him. And I hope he's able to, if, let's say, just best case scenario where they're amazing together and they have such great chemistry and they're pretty much like parallel with what they want, I hope that if mom interjected in a way that was not beneficial for them as a couple, he would be able to separate the two. And that takes practice. You don't get married and you automatically know how to set boundaries with your own family, because you haven't had to do that in so long. And oftentimes with families, our parents get away with everything. Oh, that's my parent, that's my mom, that's my dad. They can pretty much, within reason, fall into a slot or pull a stunt that anybody else could not pull. And you're like, okay, that's my mom, that's my dad. So I hope that they can kind of figure that out. He's funny though. I mean, I say all that, but like, I really like Austin. I feel like I got to know his personality a little bit. He's hilarious to me. There's several times that I laughed out loud. One of them being when they were at the altar and he said, I knew I'd marry you or I wanted to marry you the first moment I saw you. Something like that. That was super cheeky and funny because we knew you were going to get married this first time you saw them. So he is lighthearted. She is really funny as well. Kind of goofy, so they kind of work in that way. 50-50, that works really well. So 50%, that type of dynamic works really well because it can kind of release the tension from certain situations that, sometimes we create mountains out of molehills, and that's a dynamic that can not take itself too seriously and kind of eliminate some unnecessary tension. 50%, that's negative, because a lot of times that's just deflection. And so instead of like talking about things or really addressing things or communicating effectively or honestly, let's joke about it. And if we get too comfortable with that dynamic, then we now don't know how to do anything else. So there were times where I was just like, okay, it's enough. Like, this is enough. Like we're on, on another spectrum, we saw another couple not do so well with communication. They, on this spectrum, they were almost having too good of a time, which it's not a problem, but I just wanted to see like a little more serious dialogue, like in their intimate times, like, what are you doing? Like, what do you do? What do you like just bits and pieces that they can get in a few minutes, but they were joking about champagne and it was like the longest joke. So I enjoyed it, but I'm hoping that doesn't become their shtick. And then we don't get to see who they really are. Their vows were cute. They seem to have a good chemistry. They seem to like each other. I don't necessarily know. I don't remember hearing what they wanted in terms of aesthetics. I know Jessica said something about like tall and a beard and dark features. I don't know what he said. Either way, I think that they're happy with each other. I think that they're pleasantly surprised and they're like, okay, it's like if you wanted someone who had dark hair but his hair is brown, it's like, I would have written dark hair, but he's handsome, or I like him, or I'm enjoying this. So I think that's the vibe that they have. They have close families on both sides, really supportive, whether they understand what this process is about or even agree with it, they're still there, still solid. And they seem to be like a very good couple foundationally, both on family sides and just within themselves. So that is Jessica and Austin. Did I get the names right? Yeah, Jessica and Austin. So we'll see more from them. Next but not least, this is Prego Brain, by the way. Okay, I have been saying the most random things the last couple of months. So next we have Taylor and Brandon. So, okay, one word, awkward. Taylor and Brandon were so awkward to me. I mean, I felt myself so tense watching them. Like, my body was tense and I had to be like, why are you sitting here like this? Like, relax. But I was like watching and basically absorbing their energy. they were very awkward, and it was hard to watch. I hope that they are able to get past that and have conversation that isn't so calculated. Because even when there was a time that they felt very hyperverbal, and they were talking a lot and asking a lot of questions and almost like cutting each other off to, not in a negative way, but just kind of like waiting to ask the next question. But it felt like tripping over your feet type of thing, not the smooth, casual conversation. I really liked him coming down and greeting mom, and I think the others did that too. But he had a little charisma in doing it, and he joked up front, and it was kind of chill. He mentioned, which I think is important, that he suffers from anxiety and has panic attacks, or has had panic attacks. So I think that's something that's really important to note, because that's significant. And that is something that he told her as well. So that's really important, because, as he becomes stressed or triggered, you will see that side. Something about him tells me that he has a temper. I don't know what that is. That's literally just me picking it up energetically and just, okay, I could see that he may struggle or may have struggled. But I'm glad that he shared that. He was open and honest about it, and he actually said it a few times. Taylor and him kind of vibe together, I think, in terms of aesthetic. They both like what each other saw. Like, she turns around and says, he looks good, and of course, what he was describing that he wanted, she pretty much is. So they hit the jackpot with each other there. Their families are both pretty supportive. We find out that he had a loss. He lost his younger brother his older brother when he was younger. So they both kind of are single children. He wasn't a single child, but he is with the loss of his brother, and she's a single child. So they talk a little bit about what they are into after they get married. Their vows are cute. They laugh, they joke. He wrote his vows out, and he made a joke that I can't remember what the joke specifically was, but we can see that he's struggling, because he says, like, this is not going to be that great, but he's trying to, like, overcome it. He's putting in the effort. And, she does really well with her vows too, and they're excited. They actually, like, jumped the gun a little bit and, like, kissed too early, but it was funny. They took it all in stride. But the conversation afterwards was really awkward. Even though we got a lot of good dialogue and I wouldn't say good dialogue. We got, like, a lot of good information about them, but they struggled. And she said something like, I don't even know if he likes me. So she's not really picking up his cues, and he's telling the camera, like, she's everything, but he's not really verbalizing that, and she's a little awkward in herself. I think he is the one that's a little more awkward of the two, but together they're struggling, but I think they will be all right. I hope that they are all right as they get calm, as they get comfortable, and not get so wrapped up in their heads a lot, because I think that's where they are. Whereas we see Jessica and Austin, they're not in their heads at all, which is why the conversation is just fluid and funny, and it's like, whatever, let's just have a good time. So I hope they're able to adopt that, like, on the honeymoon, because that's really, after they spend the first night together, that's really the next thing that they're going to do. They had a good time at their reception. He danced with his grandmother. His grandmother looks like she plays 0 games. Like, she is still calling the shots, very young-spirited, very spicy, made him come out even though he's a terrible dancer. And, she doesn't care. I could tell his mom and grandmother especially, was reserved with this, but once again, they showed up, and they're like, we're here for you no matter what, and we hope that it works out. And since you're doing this, we really want it to work out, because it's not like, because we're not on board, you're not going to do it. So it's kind of like, we hope this works out. So we'll see how Taylor and Brandon are. I don't know what to say about them. I think they have potential based on what we saw last night. But that remains to be seen, because it's too early to tell. But, they had a lot of similar matches, in terms of the alcohol sales and stuff like that. So, or similar interests. So we'll see. But I think she is more of the social one. She's talking about how she likes to go out, and she hopes she's not a homebody. And I don't know if anybody noticed, but he was, like, even reserved in saying that he isn't a homebody. So it wasn't believable to me, because he was like, yeah, I like to go out. And I'm like, I don't buy that. I don't. But well, I think he will try. So that's all we can ask for at this point. And the last couple to get married last night was, let's see, Katie and Derek. So I can't help but roll my eyes. Katie bothers me. And I said this last week because she was so on the fence with even getting married and talking to her ex that she broke up with several weeks before she was chosen. That really irritated me. Still being on the fence and crying throughout the process because she wasn't sure. It's just really unstable. So that really bothered me because I feel like she's taking the space of someone who is like 100% in it, you know? And I will say this, the show does not have as many success stories as it has like losses, but for the small amount of success stories that it has, they are true success stories, you know, and children have been birthed from them. And so to a small number of people, this process has been really significant. So what irritates me with her is that she's taking up room for someone who may genuinely want that. And, you know, nowadays we don't know. A lot of these people will get on the show and it'll be for another reason, and you can't always call it. So you never really know. But she goes through with it. And here's my thing with Katie, okay? Katie's family's supportive. It was sweet to see her with her dad and her mom and stepdad, and everybody's here, friends, yada, yada. But what bothers me about Katie is how quickly she switches and how she went from like crying, and this could also be filming too, but the content is what it is. She went from really being unsure, but she said something that was significant, saying, you know what, I would rather move forward with someone who is on the same page with what they want as I am than my ex who I'm still unsure about. That's a great epiphany. I wish she would have had that before she walked down the aisle. Like, when you're in your wedding dress is not the time to be having that epiphany. To me, that means you're not ready still because you're wavering. You should have had that weeks and weeks ago, you know? She sees Derek. Is that his name? Yeah, she sees Derek at the aisle, and she's pleasantly surprised. He seems to be happy with her. I really like Derek. He seems like a nice guy. I love the interaction with him and his mom. You know, her emotions for what a good guy he was, and she flew in from Uruguay, and, you know, she really like talked to him, and she's hopeful, and she's throwing out her mother's intuition that this is going to work out. And I was just like, God, I hope it works out just for the sake of his mom and him, of course. But like, because what we've seen of Katie, obviously she hasn't, and it just really irritated me. But I think that they had such a sweet dynamic. His dynamic with his friends was really nice. He seems like a really nice guy, and he didn't waver at all. If you heard him, he was very direct about really wanting this, being ready, looking forward to it, and it just was so oppositional from Katie. So I hope that she sticks to this, okay? Because she when she saw him, she immediately got excited. But my thing is, like, just as quickly as she can turn right back. So where I may struggle in seeing, oh, that's great, Katie's happy with him. For me, I'm like, okay, so what will it take for her not to be happy? If she can so quickly be happy with him after 5 minutes of, you know, ruminating over her ex-boyfriend. So those are a little bit of a concern for me because I can't trust her at this point. But they seem to be happy together. They had a great vows. They're very comfortable with each other chemistry wise. They kiss, and their pictures are super cute. They're not uncomfortable. It feels very much like a fairy tale for them, and especially for Katie. That's where she's at. Her whole vibe is like, this is great. My husband's cute. I'm happy. I'm married. One thing I would say that is really honorable about Derek, because they talked at the reception and she said, you know, you can have my bread because I'm a diabetic and stuff like that. Diabetes or anything, really, everybody has something. But to take that on day one and to say, and he basically was like, I don't care about that. Like, I just need to learn. And to be so open to having to take that on and whatever that may entail, because I think she has type 1, so that's very significant. She's had it since she was a little girl. That is very significant for you to know, especially if you are with a partner who has that. And what's very honorable about him is he takes that on, I don't want to say day one, he takes that on within the first couple of hours. And most people, you know, if we all had a first date with our significant others and they sat there with all their negatives, you would get up and leave. It would be like, check please, because what buys us into each other for all the negative rides is that emotional connection that we were able to build through a friendship and through time spent and through great moments that caused this bond that created this desire to go through life with this person no matter what. And most people at the beginning, if somebody sat next to you and was just like, hey, I got this going on, I'd be like, okay, no, I'm not interested. Why? Because I'm not emotionally bonded. I have no reason to be connected enough to throw myself into that. So the fact that he didn't even say, well, you know, I want to find out about that, because what does that mean? He just basically jumped in and said, I want to learn about this so I can be a part of whatever she has going on and be a helpmate, essentially is what he said. I thought that was very, very honorable, and I really, really have hope for him. So I hope that Katie matches that, and I hope that they, you know, vibe together, because they did have really good chemistry. So I hope that this continues. They're just now getting married. So we still have an entire season to see, and we still have 2 more couples next week to watch get married. So we will see. But I definitely got more of a feel with the couples last night than I did the first episode. So we're already off to a better start. If we're looking at it, we're looking for the silver lining, it's already better. So let me know what you guys thought. As always, don't forget to subscribe, comment, and like, and I will see you guys next week. Everyone have a great weekend.